One of the things that I really believe differentiates resilient organizations from some of the other organizations that we see is that those organizations that are resilient really focus on the outcomes that they are delivering to their end user, the key stakeholders that they've identified. And I think this moves us away from maybe a more traditional approach to risk and resilience, which is often focused on the risk to an asset and how we might recover that asset, or the processes that we put in place. So maybe the resilience of a building or an IT system and how we might recover that, to actually saying what are the outcomes that we're delivering and what are the alternative ways in which we might deliver that outcome. And I think the key thing here is that, one, it focuses attention on what's really important for the stakeholder, the end user, but it also allows us to identify those alternatives, those options that if we can't recover the asset or the process, we have another means by which we deliver that essential outcome.
Yeah, and I think this is a really, really important point. The thinking about the resilience of an outcome rather than just the recovery of an asset. You may achieve the resilience of the outcome by recovering the asset, but we're also considering, what if we can't recover the asset? What if it's not the best thing to do at the time? So then how do we achieve it in a different way? And to give an example, we've been thinking about different sectors and different types of organizations and how this might apply. If you were a water company, you could say that an essential outcome is being able to deliver drinkable water to householders, not necessarily to houses, but to householders. And normally that water comes through the tap in your house. But what happens if that is disrupted? Are there alternate ways of delivering drinkable water to householders? And yes, there are. I mean, water companies may ship in bottles of water or a tanker of water, or put a standby pipe up in the street. So that's what we mean by resilience of outcomes and finding alternative ways to deliver the outcome. Yeah. And it may still mean there's some inconvenience for householders, but they are getting drinkable water.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, Rick. And I think one of the key aspects to stress here is that those alternatives and those options are identified before a crisis. So often, even with COVID, that organizations really then understood what was important to their end users, their key stakeholders, but they're making the decisions about what's important during the crisis, because those resilient organizations have already explored those alternatives, those options well ahead in a much more proactive way.
Yeah, and I think when we think about resilience of those essential outcomes, there's resilience we may build in by design, alternate routes of delivery, this sort of thing. By design, we've built that in. But the second is thinking about what are the options as well that I've got. And at the end of the day, the more options you have, or the more diversity you've got in the design, then the more resilient you will be. So I think focusing on those outcomes, how they're delivered, and alternatives you may have in the way they're delivered, will achieve better resilience.